Really quick before we get into the fantasy news, we are having a 2-week merch drop to finish off the year here starting today. And in that will be our best sellers that we've ever had from our merch line. So if you missed out on the Struggler hoodie, the Disheveled Goblin hoodie, or even the Give Women's Sword tee or the TBR tee, all of which will be available 10% off as an end of the year Christmas thank you sale for making our recent merch runs the most successful we have ever had. Can't tell you how much we appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. And go ahead and go to danielbgreen.com if you'd like to get yourself some fantastical gear. Now, into the news. Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host, Daniel Green, and today we're going to be starting off with a little bit of a bummer story, but after that, it's a lot of great news stuff I'm really excited about, but just bear with me as we talk about the fact that HarperCollins has apparently been offering its authors $2,500 per title to feed their books into an anonymous AI tech company's AI training program, which... We know about this because Daniel Kibblesmith, author of several titles, took to Blue Sky to post a screenshot of emails he received from HarperCollins that said, "We have been approached by HarperCollins regarding a deal they made with an AI tech company. Details are in the note above and attached. They would like to include Santa's husband, Daniel's book, in the program. Let me know what you think, positive or negative, and we can handle the rest for you. You are receiving this memo because we have been informed by HarperCollins that they would like permission to include your book in an overall deal they are making with a large tech company to use a broad swath of nonfiction books for the purpose of providing content for the training of an AI language learning model. You are likely aware, as we all are, that there are controversies surrounding the use of copyrighted material in the training of AI models. Much of the controversies come from the fact that many companies seem to be doing so without acknowledging or compensating the original creators. And, of course, there is concern that these AI models will one day make us all obsolete. That said, the technology is here and being used. We are somewhat heartened to see that a major publishing company and major tech company have found a way to do this that compensates and protects authors to some degree. Please read through the attached memo from HarperCollins, which explains how this will proceed, and the compensation and protection that is part of the deal. But in a nutshell, it will be a payment of $2,500 per title, not applied against any advance, for a license period of 3 years, with certain protections concerning credit and limits of verbatim usage per AI response. We know that these terms have already been negotiated between HarperCollins and the tech company, and has been agreed to by several hundred authors, so individual negotiations at this point isn't possible. It's a yes or no choice. We have done some negotiation to make the language of the contractual amendment more specific and limited. To which Daniel said no because 1, just don't do that to your literary catalog, and 2, $2,500 per title, well, it might seem like a lot, especially for this case where you're going to be splitting it with an illustrator. It's actually half that. And in the long run of a hopefully successful book's lifespan, which every author wants their book to be, it's an insulting amount. I find especially egregious in this the fact that they're saying hundreds of authors have signed on, so there's no debate anything on your behalf. This is either happening or not. And on the tails of us learning that Penguin Random House is essentially doing the opposite of this, trying to put in safeguards for their copyrighted material, it's just, ugh. The fact that they even say in this memo, like, one day this technology could ruin all of our careers, but like, it's gonna happen, so it. Just, wow, HarperCollins, good God. You know, the great noble causes throughout history that people have fought so hard for, and how they've often used the slogan, well, this is inevitable, so we might as well give up. My thoughts and opinion on this, if you've been watching my content for any expanse of time, is going to be obvious. I do not like that HarperCollins seems to be caving in, but to some degree, in some capacity, I am able to understand, because I hate to admit it, but they're not entirely wrong. There is already mass use of copyrighted content going on across many different industries to train AI models, and to their credit, most of the time, the people who are being stolen from are not compensated or made aware of what's happening in any way, shape, or form. HarperCollins seems to be trying to minimize damage, I guess, or at least make some money off of this while they are actually acknowledging and openly selling content to this large AI tech company. But what kind of fascinates me most is it takes an insane amount of data to train, at least from my experience, language models like this, and how they're hoping to get enough authors through this method? I have no idea. And on top of that, notice in all of this, we don't learn how much HarperCollins is getting paid. We just know that individual authors for each title they give up are getting $2,500, but how much HarperCollins has gotten? Your guess is as good as mine. But as you can tell, there was no updates from last week's fantasy news, and we've gone ahead and just jumped into the big stories of the day. But I would like to cover some clarification news that's been going on in regards to the latest How to Train Your Dragon live action adaptation updates, because we had a photo leak online that included the dragon Toothless, but they have been incredibly aggressive, it seems, in getting that image taken down. I was only able to find it again today after seeing it for the first time last week because it was still like hyperlinked within a site, but if you went to that post on Twitter, it was gone, and it seems almost every website that did have an article covering it has deleted the post as well. I'm not going to be putting it in this video. Sorry, I will have a link down below if you'd like to see it yourself, posted somewhere else, but I just don't want to have this video copyright struck. Right in this same time, though, of us getting this leak, they actually did put out a legitimate first look, which I would guess, though I can't say for sure, was an intentional way to kind of squash that spreading online. This first look did not include Toothless, which may have not been like fully done in terms of design and rendering, and instead shows Hiccup in the training arena, which is cool to see. As overall me feeling about this, a live action How to Train Your Dragon movie, I'm sure will have its fans, it'll have its detractors by fault. I'll wait and see if it's actually quality before speaking my judgment. In reality, though, if I was looking at like the full franchise, I would rather just see like a continuation of the animated story and maybe like a new generation exploring various aspects of this world than a live action one. But I'm not like inherently mad at it. It's not like we're seeing yet another live action Disney movie be announced here that is going to be a retelling of one of their animated classics called Hades. But they seem to be doing this a little bit different because this is actually going to be a retelling of the Hercules story that Disney put out from Hades' perspective. At least they're kind of like shifting gears with it. That's what I can say. It's like, all right, you're doing something creatively that opens different avenues. That is a whole bunch of generous. I'm going to slide out of the way now as we move to the next news, which is actually, maybe I should think of this as kind of an update from a story we previously covered, but in reality, I may have just covered it not entirely properly because I have now seen additional interior image design art for Joe Abercrombie's The Devils to be released early next year. And while I was already able to show you these three images before, we have also now gotten a look at Balthazar, wants to be known as a magician, not a wizard, not a sorcerer, so you better respect him. Sunny is an elf, and elves are hated in this version of the world. They might eat humans and want to take over the world? I don't know. Sounds understandable to us. As well as Baptiste is the type of person who, no matter what the situation, is like, oh, I did this once, and then comes out with the wildest story. We want to be friends. And finally, Baron Rickard is a vampire who often just sits back and watches the chaos unfold. What an aspiration. Man, The Devil seems like Joe Abercrombie really kind of approaching a different genre within fantasy in terms of tone. Although he's kind of always been a bit of a comedy guy in a lot of his stories. Humor is a big part of the storytelling. It just seems to have to be more leaning into it in terms of like initial concepts, and how that new formula will work for him as a creative, I am fascinated to see. The Devils is still probably my most anticipated book of next year. But this is going to take us to our first reveal of the day, which is going to be coming from Adam Oyebanji for Esperance, described as a whip-smart thriller in the vein of Blake Crouch, Andy Weir, and Neil Stevenson. Esperance plumbs into the depths of seemingly impossible crime rooted in racism, intergenerational trauma, and inhuman concepts of justice. Detective Ethan Kroll is on the 20th floor of a Chicago apartment building. A father and a son have been found dead, their lungs full of seawater hundreds of miles from the ocean. And I gotta say, this cover, doing a whole lot with not very much. I think there's like, what, 4 colors on the cover even total, as well as just like a few various things to focus on. But we have a mosquito, I believe, a ship over a flat sea, said sea being red with the vastness of space behind it. And all those authors it mentioned as inspirations folding in this cover and delivering that kind of premise is just the perfect sci-fi combo to pique my interest and make me want to scroll on through them pages. So this one on the TBR. Will I get to it soon? No. It's such a big list. It's such a big list. But this is going to take me to the biggest name of the day announcing a new release. An author that it has been a minute since we have gotten a release from, which should have been warning enough for us that it was time for us to get said release. And that is because Stephen King has announced his new book, Never Flinch. Never Flinch features intertwining storylines, one about a killer on a diabolical revenge mission, and another about a vigilante stalking a feminist celebrity speaker. The novel features a host of familiar characters, including King's beloved Holly Gibney and gospel singer Sista Bessie, as well as riveting new faces that include a villain addicted to murder. And say what you will about Stephen King's later career versus his old career. I know people have their preferences out there, but I am just happy to still be living in a day and age where the mind that brought us Carrie, The Shining, and It, as well as so many other classics that have been made into movies that are in like many people's top 10 of all time, is still able to put out quality material. Sickeningly addictive ideas. That being said, this cover is great. The font they use for Stephen King books has never been my favorite. More than being scary, this especially just looks more like what kids draw with chalk on pavement during recess. Daniel, did you just take time out of all of our days to not comment on the story, the premise, the author, or the cover, but instead the typography? I did. Next news. And in book acquisition news, we have had it announced by Orbit that they have made a deal with Megan Bontrager for The Sea Hides Its Dead. The Descent Meets the Ritual in a cult aquatic horror about a group of academics trapped in a sea cave who must reckon with eldritch horrors, coming June of 2026. And well, there's no cover for me to talk about. I can't really even get into too much in that blurb because it's largely just recommending other stuff. I will say, if you have not seen The Descent and you are a fan of horror, damn good. Not like an all-time favorite, but a very good claustrophobic horror movie. And claustrophobia being used in writing by proper writers, I will say people who can capture that feeling well, can be vivid enough that even though I am not claustrophobic, I will feel that fear. I've encountered that several times. Am I alone? Because like, I genuinely, you can lock me in a closet. It happened to me as a kid. Did not bother me that much. But you can write a scene of someone being trapped in a closet or something, and I will start to feel that claustrophobia. Am I insane? Or can other people like understand? I mean, that's like the magic of writing, right? Great writers can literally make you feel a phobia you are not feeling. No, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone in that. I just talked myself into being more confident. Everyone has experienced that, I hope. And I didn't have a cell phone insert this week, which just felt illegal, so I'll take the opportunity to add one here now and say that I have begun work on my Rhythm of War summary this week, and I hope to get it out to you either by the end of this week or early next week. It's going to be over 100 chapters summarized, well over, so a little bit of patience. But I'm trying to make it my most in-depth Stormlight Archive summary yet, so look forward to that. And in very fun book quickie news, if you are a fan of ElfQuest, the original creators in collaboration with Dark Horse Comics are going to be putting out a full-color omnibus set with books 1 and 2. The first of which will be arriving in February of 2025, followed up by book 2 in May of 2025. With a statement from Wendy and Richard Pini saying, "We envy everyone who is discovering or rediscovering ElfQuest in this gorgeous new full-color Dark Horse incarnation for the first time. ElfQuest is a classic, yet refreshingly surprising in the way it tosses traditional fantasy cliches out on their pointed ears." But this next story will be the end of our book news, but it is a beacon of light, especially after that bummer of a first story. But that is because we have seen that Barnes & Noble is apparently seeing a rise in traffic due to their new strategy of how they are curating a book experience within the store, seeing an overall 7% increase in foot traffic since 2019. And I was not sure if I had fully noticed this change, but the more I think about it, yes, this does make sense. Barnes & Noble has been trying to make all of their bookstores feel more like a book shopping experience, and that is why you have seen more of those tables and recommendations, as well as notes from people who work in the store just trying to help you find which book you want to put in your hand. Really get that brick and mortar advantage over the convenience of what you get online. The experience of having what feels like bookshop owners actually talk to you, recommend books that you can't really get on Amazon, just going click, click. It'll be here in 24 to 48 hours. And love it or hate it, this article goes on to talk about how Book Talk, and I assume by extension booktubers, they're kind of like one community just on two different platforms, but whatever, also helps influence this drive. There is a lot of people, influencers and just consumers, who want to go to that Book Talk table and see what their favorite personality has been recommending online, which I had that first initial reaction when I saw that table too, of like, that's weird. But even as someone, who was a booktuber, I had that thought. But if it pays off and it gets more people to pick up books, I don't care. I just want people reading fiction or nonfiction, whatever tickles their fancy, because I believe that is good for us as a community. All of us, the big community, the global one. Reading is great. Makes you smarter and makes it so you're not doing drugs, at least not really bad ones, while you're reading. You know, a little bit of, that's fine, but in a book, that doesn't work. So those are the reasons I love books. That and nothing else. Now, some of you may remember me mentioning a few weeks back in the fantasy news that there was going to exist a mini dragon. In fact, there was going to be a Kickstarter for Christopher Paolini's Saphira to come to life in a more accurate and enjoyable way than ever before. Well, apparently they saw my coverage and decided that's the official Saphira noise, but also that I would get to take a look at this little guy. Oh my god! I shouldn't call it that little, it's pretty gosh darn big. One note about this prototype model I was able to get my hands on, the actual one, if you back this project, that you will be able to get is going to be 10% bigger than this guy. So it's going to be 12 inches tall, and I think this one's closer to 11. But this collectible statue was modeled by Ottavio Liborio, with Christopher's direct supervision, including over 50 back and forth feedback iterations on everything from Saphira's head to her wings, scale, pose, and the base. But this is made by PVC injection molding and also can be assembled and disassembled, so that if you want to get really weird with it, you can just pop her head off and, I don't know, let your imagination run wild. Now, they did offer 50 pre-painted editions of the Saphira statue. Those have all been sold out. But there is a painting guide that's going to come with it, with every bit of information you need to paint this to be a 100% accurate Saphira, with a painting guide, like hex codes, all of that good stuff. And this is actually going to come in like a beautiful display box. It's kind of like ridiculously nice boxitude. And then it'll like unfold into a proper display case. Of course, with it being a Kickstarter, you also have additional tiers. You can end up getting things like a coin that's going to be serialized so you know that it's yours. And while you're over there, you know, you can add an addition to any previous Wraithmark projects and throw in a copy of Neon Ghosts or the deluxe edition of TLT. Just putting that out there. It's a thing. Gonna say it. At the time of recording, they're already well over $700K in funding, with one stretch goal left at $1 million. So if you all want to push them over so that you can get some big old flappy dragon, go ahead and follow the link in the description down below and get your Saphira today. Back to the news. I know this wider news is going to even keep in the hardcore book fans, though, because we're going to be talking about Arcane. Yes, the show that had both season 1 and 2 topping the charts on Netflix. Because as you've probably heard, it's planning on ending after season 2. Planning. They do not want to continue the show, and instead they want to tell other stories within the same fictional world. And I think that's great. End your art when the art should end, and your vision says so you don't end up like so many other shows. Dexter. Now, what's interesting is there have been misconceptions floating around online that originally Arcane was planned to be 5 seasons, and instead was somehow being reduced, even as early as like season 1, to just 2. That is not the case. In fact, we have even seen Mark Myrl, I think I'm saying that right, co-founder of Riot Games, clarifying on Reddit saying, Arcane was always written to be 2 seasons. The confusion is because internally there was a budget conversation about approving 5 seasons, which simply means we were setting aside a bunch of money for lots of development and is completely irrelevant to the Arcane creative. The creative and making something great is what the priority should always be for Riot and our teams. We have also always envisioned telling more stories and continuing to expand the universe. That hasn't ever changed. People just jump at rumors or misleading headlines and Riot doesn't correct them. But given those rumors gain momentum, happy to clarify. Just because that is our intent doesn't mean it's easy or that we can pump these things out like a factory. Just like making games that are worthy of our players' time/love is really hard, so too is telling great stories and incredible shows/film. And I absolutely love that response. I hate when I see headlines, poorly written articles that make me end up believing something that isn't entirely true, and I end up regurgitating it here to the audience because there's no additional sources to check, and it's just, oh, so frustrating. So someone actually involved in the team taking time to come out and clarify is just fantastic. And we can confirm now with 100% certainty there will be an Arcane movie. I'm joking. I am joking. That was me. See what I did? I did the haha off of what he said. But this is going to take me to possibly my most controversial opinion today. I have not really tested the waters on this one, aside from bringing it up with a couple friends of mine over dinner who mostly agreed with me, but hey, that's called a bubble, and let's see what the larger bubble that I've created here on the platform has to say. And that's because we have specifically seen Sophie Turner has been cast, the rumors were true, as Lara Croft in the upcoming Tomb Raider reboot. It's going to be a series over at Amazon. And I have actually like a few different problems with this. I really like the Tomb Raider series as a whole. I have nothing majorly against Sophie Turner, but I just don't find her acting a very good fit for this character and or role. It's not about her appearance. I've long just said I don't really care if adaptation characters match the appearance of the original. It's just never been something that's really bubbled my blood. But to be perfectly honest, I found that Sansa Stark was largely carried by the writing around that character instead of the performance, and things I have seen Sophie Turner in since then just have not blown me away. I'm not that big of a fan, unfortunately. I would love to be, and I definitely understand she does have her fans out there who may be very excited about this casting, but this one just seems like a bit of a miss to me. But this is going to take us to the trailers of the day, and actually a full-length film. And let's start with that one, because we have gotten a all-practical effects short film made about a robot in space called Lost in the Sky by Simon Oster. And often here on the channel, I love to use my platform to tell you guys this is amazing art, and it's a smaller thing that just needs more eyes because a crazy person made it essentially with just a small crew in themselves over a long period of time. And this might be one of the best examples of that I have ever seen. Watching Lost in the Sky was breathtaking. Then going over to watch all the behind the scenes stuff over on Simon's actual YouTube channel was even better. This kind of like passion put into just, I as an artist have to create this thing is so contagious, and the outside the box innovative usage of practical effects they implemented to achieve the visuals you see here in this are, it reminds me of like going back and watching like the making of Star Wars type stuff, just on a super smaller scale, but equally as inspiring to me. Absolutely something you as a sci-fi or just film fan or even just fantastical creation fan should dedicate an hour or two to looking into. Brilliant artistry, and now I'll be looking into pretty much anything this person puts out from here on out. But do you remember back in the day when we got Pooh, Blood and Honey, and now we're getting a Pinocchio horror film? We're not even close to done, because within the same batch of recently copyright released characters, we have had The Little Mermaid, and god damn it, yeah, low budget horror has found her too! And we are getting a low-budget horror movie about The Little Mermaid. Why do I insist on continually covering these? At this point, I don't even know. I really don't. It was kind of interesting that Pooh, Blood, and Honey got a sequel already that's higher budget and slightly better received. That's the only interesting thing that's come out of any of this. The trailer looked genuinely horrible, and I am going to watch it. Judge me. Judge me all you want. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to like it. In like a sick, twisted, bad way, I'm going to like it. But the final trailer we're going to be talking about today is something that I myself, and it seems like most of you all, are very excited for. From the creators of Love, Death, Robots, we are going to be getting Secret
Level,
a series of episodes in a fashion similar to Love, Death, Robots that will be instead focusing on video games. Everything from the Outer Worlds to Warhammer 40k. Yes, even Mega Man and New World ATM all are going to be getting these little shorts in a season of television on Amazon Prime. And this trailer lived up to exactly where my expectations were from something from the Love, Death, Robots team. I just like watched it and I was like, that hit the mark. Not overhyped, not underhyped. I properly hyped. And goddamn, getting the rights for all of this and putting it together, I cannot imagine the amount of work and paperwork required for everyone to sign off. And indeed, doodly poodly, there's also that one game that's already been shut down that apparently no one played that is also lined up to be getting an episode. That's neater than anything that's happened with any of those horror movies I've covered. This will be dropping on Prime December 10th and continuing to drop until December 17th. So it seems like they're doing like a daily bam, 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 bam. But as for the writing updates here on the channel, I just hit over 113,000 words for my book Better Dead, which I could not be more excited for. I'm in that final like to finish. I think it'll be about 130 to 140,000 words. Woo! Feels good. After that, I'll be sending it off to a few beta readers as well as my agent, and then I'll be making videos updating you on the whole process, the experience of jumping from indie and hybrid over to trad. Can't wait to talk about that with you all as well. Unfortunately, a lot is on Kayla's plate this week, so she wasn't able to quite fit in an Indie Pub promo spot, but we will absolutely be putting one in next week. Thank you for understanding. But this has just been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you'd like to support what I do here and see bonus content like chapters from my book posted, vote on my future reads, or even see Kayla and I review movies like the 1992 Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And be sure to go to danielbgreen.com to pick up any of the merch that you wanted to pick up that you missed out on throughout the year. Or just get something that catches your eye. Have a good one, y'all. Peace. But of course, I would like to record a special shout out to my latest high tier Patreon, Joshua Vater. Thank you so much.